Are you having a hard time passing your NCLEX? I know all about it. Listen, there's a link here on the screen or down in the description box. Click on it and I'm gonna tell you exactly how I can help you pass your NCLEX on your very next attempt. But that's not our topic for today. What we're gonna talk about is pacemaker ECG interpretation. A lot of people hate ECG and it is a hot topic on your NCLEX. You're gonna get at least 2 or 3 questions in the first 75 questions. So you better know your ECG, and we're gonna talk about pacemaker ECG interpretation, which is a tougher topic, but I'm gonna simplify it to you so that you will never ever forget about it. So let's jump into the screen. First off, there are a few definitions that I'd like to talk about, starting with single chamber pacemaker. So single chamber pacemaker. So a single chamber pacemaker is one lead. One lead is placed in the heart and paces a single heart chamber, either the atrium or the ventricle. So for example, if I have the heart like that, and pardon my drawing skills, but if I have a heart like that, and this is the pacemaker, there's one wire that hits either the atrium or one wire that hits either the ventricle. So what you're gonna have is, if you're gonna have an ECG like that, right? This is the T wave. You're gonna have a pace right there or a pace right there. Okay, so it's either or. That's why we call it single chamber pacemaker. So let's see. The next definition that I want you to know is that there is a dual chamber pacemaker. So we say a dual chamber pacemaker. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that when you've got the heart like that, and this is the pacemaker, you've got 2 leads, one coming to the ventricle, to the right atrium, and one coming to the right ventricle, okay? So the next thing I want to talk about is pacemaker modes. Okay, there are 2 modes. The first one is fixed heart rate. A fixed heart rate, it is the pacemaker discharges at a preset rate, usually 70 to 80 beats per minute, regardless of the patient's own electrical activity. And the second mode is demand, which means that the pacemaker discharges only when the patient's heart rate drops below the pacemaker's preset rate. So if it is 70, when it drops below 70, the pacemaker will start throwing discharges. Okay, those we call them discharges. So now we're going to talk about different rhythms, but before that, we're going to talk about the normal beat. Okay, I've got 2 beats right here. You've got a P wave. This is a P wave. You've got a QRS. This right here, this QRS, and then you've got the T wave. Okay, what we're going to talk about today is the P wave and the QRSs. So when we talk about a discharge from a pacemaker, it's going to look just like that. It is before the P wave, and this one as well, it's before the P wave. This is 100% atrial paced. So you've got a pacemaker that is attached to the heart, but it's only attached to the atrium because it's giving a pacing before the P wave. It's 100% atrial paced. The other case is when the pacing is before the QRS, right? This is the QRS. The pacing is right there before the QRS. This is 100% ventricular pacing, okay? So if you've got pacemaker like that, that's the heart, then the pacing is on the right ventricle. So how does it look if you have dual pacing? Then you've got a pacing right there before the P, and then the other pacing is before the QRS. Same thing on the second beat. You've got a pacing right there before the P and another pacing before the QRS. So usually the pacemaker is like that. I'm gonna try to draw a cute heart, and then one is on the atrium, the other one is on the ventricle. So what are some of the pacemaker failures? We have 3 of them, and we're gonna talk about all 3 of them, okay? And at the end, I'm gonna give you a test so that you can solve on your own, okay? So this is the first failure. So you've got, we see pacing here before the QRS, another pacing before the QRS, another pacing before the QRS, and then you've got a pacing before the QRS, but the heart did not produce a QRS, right? So what's the problem here? It is called failure to capture. It did not capture a beat. So it was paced, but it did not capture a beat. That's failure to capture, okay? The second one I want to talk about is this rhythm right here. You've got a pacing here before a P wave, you've got another pacing before a P wave, and then there's no pacing here, and there is a pause. All right, there is a pause. So what happened here? What do I call this? This is called failure to pace. Okay, it did not pace. That's failure to pace. Simple as that. And then the last rhythm I want to show you is this rhythm right here. So here you've got a pacing before a QRS. You've got another pacing right here before a QRS. And here the pacing was on the T wave. This is a T wave. This wave right here is a T wave. You've got a P somewhere here. You've got a QRS, and then you've got the T wave right there. So the pacing was on the rhythm itself. That means this is a very serious situation. It can cause arrhythmias, right? So this should not happen. The pacing should be before a P wave or before a QRS. So anytime the pacing is on the rhythm, it could be on the T wave or on the P wave or on the QRS. That means it's failure to sense. Okay? Another form of failure to sense is having a pacing. Let me clean this up. Is having a pacing after the QRS. So this is the QRS-T, and then you've got a pacing. That means it is failure to sense. So failure to sense, I don't want you to be mixed up. It's either on the rhythm, so it's either on the T, on the QRS, or on the P if there is a P, or if it is after a QRS. That is failure to sense. Okay, those are the 3 rhythms that you need to know, nothing else. That's everything you need to know about pacing of the heart and the failures that might happen. You might see these questions on your NCLEX, but they are very easy to solve. You just need to memorize those. So I gave you a screenshot here of why the failures happens. If it's failure to capture, you might have a hardware problem, an exit block, or patient issue, either electrolyte drugs or myocardial infarction, and you read the rest. And that's why this pacemaker is failing. And now I'm gonna give you 3 rhythms, A, B, and C. Try to pause the video and see this rhythm. What is it? Is it failure to pace, failure to capture, or failure to sense? Pause the video and put it down in the comments. And then you've got this rhythm. Which one of the failures it is? It is failure to pace, failure to capture, or failure to sense. Pause the video and put it down in the comments. This is rhythm B. And then you've got rhythm C. Guess what this rhythm is? Capture, pace, or sense. So now you have no excuse. You should know everything about pacemaker interpretation on an ECG, failures, and how to troubleshoot. But if you have problems passing your NCLEX and you want to know more, there's a link down in the description box or here on the screen somewhere. Click it and attend a free webinar where I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about NCLEX webinar, what are the services we provide, and how we can help you pass your NCLEX on your very next attempt. I wish I had someone to show me, grab my hand, and lead me through the way to success. You might have failed multiple times before. You might be a first-time test taker. You might be an international nurse. I know all about it. Listen, I helped hundreds of nurses pass their NCLEX on their very next attempt. And you are no different. I can help you. Just click that link, register for the free webinar, and learn everything about it. And afterwards, if you want to give me a call, you're going to have all my contacts, all my numbers. Listen, until next time, be an Alpha Slice.